Benjamin counted to 847. 847 people he sold over 13 years. He remembered every auction, every price, every buyer. He was the best slave auctioneer in Virginia. His master trusted him. Other masters requested him specifically. He was proud of that, until the day he discovered that number 847 was his own daughter. And that was just the beginning of what he learned. Before we go further, I need to know something. Where are you watching this from? What country? What city? What time is it right now, where you are? Drop it in the comments. I want to see how far this story reaches. This is what happened. Benjamin was born in 1835 on the Thornton Plantation in Richmond, Virginia. His mother was a slave woman named Catherine. His father was Colonel William Thornton, the master. But nobody said that out loud. Everyone knew it. You could see it in Benjamin's face. Lighter skin, sharper features, gray eyes like the colonel. The other enslaved people noticed. The mistress noticed. The colonel noticed most of all. When Benjamin was 6 years old, the colonel made a decision. He pulled Benjamin out of the fields, moved him into the main house, gave him different work, cleaning, serving meals, running errands. Benjamin did not understand why. The other slave children worked in the fields from dawn to dusk. He got to sleep indoors, eat better food, wear cleaner clothes. His mother told him he was lucky. She said the colonel saw something special in him. She did not say what. She did not have to. Benjamin was 10 years old when he figured it out. He was standing in the colonel's study, dusting shelves. The colonel was doing paperwork. He looked up at Benjamin and said, "You're smart. Smarter than the others? I can see it. You have my blood. That makes you different. You understand?" Benjamin nodded, even though he did not really understand. The colonel continued, "Most of them will spend their lives in the fields, breaking their backs, dying young. But not you. You have potential. I am going to train you for something better." Benjamin asked what. The colonel smiled. He said, "You're going to help me run this place. You're going to learn business, numbers, how to talk to buyers, how to negotiate. You're going to be valuable, more valuable than any field hand." Benjamin felt something he had never felt before. Pride. He was special. The colonel said so. He had the colonel's blood. He was different from the others. Better. That feeling stayed with him for years. It grew. It poisoned him. But he did not know that yet. The colonel started Benjamin's training when he was 12. He taught him to read and write. That was illegal in Virginia. Teaching enslaved people to read was against the law. But the colonel did not care. He needed Benjamin literate. He needed him useful. So Benjamin learned. He learned to read contracts, to write receipts, to do arithmetic, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The colonel tested him constantly. If Benjamin made a mistake, the colonel corrected him, sometimes harshly. A slap across the face, a night without food. But Benjamin learned fast. He was good at it. The numbers made sense to him. The logic of it: buy low, sell high, maximize profit, minimize loss, simple, clean. The colonel was pleased. He told Benjamin he was doing well. He told him he had a future, not like the others. The others had no future. They just had work until they died. But Benjamin was going to be something. The colonel said that over and over. And Benjamin believed it. He looked at the field workers and felt sorry for them. Poor them. They did not have what he had. They did not have the colonel's blood. They did not have his intelligence. They did not have his chance. Benjamin was 16 when the colonel told him what his real job would be. They were in the study. The colonel was smoking a cigar. He said, "I am getting old. I need help managing the business side of things. I need someone who understands value, someone who can assess merchandise and get the best price." Benjamin asked what kind of merchandise. The colonel said, "Slaves. I buy them. I sell them. I breed them. I trade them. It is the most profitable part of this plantation, more profitable than cotton, more profitable than tobacco. But it requires skill. You cannot just throw people on an auction block and hope for the best. You need to know what buyers want. You need to know how to present them, how to talk them up, how to make them worth more than they are." Benjamin felt something strange, unease. He asked, "You want me to sell slaves?" The colonel said, "I want you to be an auctioneer. You will work the auctions. You will sell for me and for other plantation owners who need someone good. You will take a cut of the profits. You will make money. You will have status. You will never work a field a day in your life. You will be above them, where you belong." Benjamin hesitated. The colonel saw it. He leaned forward. He said, "You think you are like them? You are not. You are my son. Not officially, not legally, but you have my blood. You have my mind. You do not belong with field slaves. You belong in business. This is your chance. Take it, or go to the fields with the rest of them." Benjamin took it. What choice did he have? Benjamin's first auction was in October of 1851. He was 16 years old. The location was the Richmond slave market. A large open courtyard surrounded by brick buildings. A wooden platform in the center. Buyers standing around in groups, talking, smoking, waiting. The colonel brought 12 people to sell, men, women, children. They stood in a line off to the side, chained together, scared, silent. The colonel told Benjamin what to do. Stand on the platform, call out the first person, describe them, start the bidding, make it fast, make it efficient, make it profitable. Benjamin climbed onto the platform. He looked out at the buyers. 50 men, maybe 60, all white, all wealthy, all staring at him, waiting. Benjamin felt his throat tighten. He had practiced this. The colonel had drilled him for weeks. But now it was real. He called for the first person, a man named Daniel, 30 years old, strong, healthy, good worker. 2 of the colonel's men brought Daniel onto the platform, stood him in the center, told him to turn around, show his back, show his arms, show his teeth. Daniel did it. He had no choice. Benjamin started talking. He said, "This is Daniel, 30 years old, field worker, 10 years experience, no health problems, no history of running, obedient, hard worker, strong as an ox. Look at his build. Look at his hands. This is a man who can work sunup to sundown and never complain. He will make you money. Guaranteed." "What am I bid?" Someone in the crowd shouted, $600. Someone else said, $650. Another voice, $700, $750, $800. The bids kept coming. Benjamin kept talking, kept pushing, kept selling. The final bid was $950. Sold. Daniel was led off the platform, handed over to his new owner, chained, taken away. Benjamin did not think about where Daniel was going. He did not think about whether Daniel had a family. He did not think about anything except the number, $950. Profit? He called the next person, a woman named Ruth, 26 years old, houseworker, experienced cook, skilled seamstress. The bidding started. Benjamin talked her up, made her sound valuable, desirable, useful, sold for $700. Next person, a boy named James, 14 years old, trained as a stable hand, sold for $500. Next, 12 people, 12 sales, total profit, $8,600. The colonel was thrilled. He told Benjamin he did excellent work. He gave him $50 as commission. Benjamin had never held that much money before. He felt proud. He felt successful. He felt like he mattered. He did not feel like a monster. Not yet. Over the next 13 years, Benjamin became the best auctioneer in Virginia. He worked auctions in Richmond, in Petersburg, in Norfolk, in Charlottesville. He worked for the colonel. He worked for other plantation owners. He worked for slave traders who moved people from Virginia to the Deep South. He sold men, women, children, families, individuals. He did not care who they were. He cared about the price. He got better at it, faster, smoother, more persuasive. He learned what buyers wanted. Buyers wanted field workers. He emphasized strength, endurance, obedience. Buyers wanted houseworkers. He emphasized skills, training, cleanliness. Buyers wanted women. He emphasized youth, health, fertility. He did not use those words directly, but everyone knew what he meant. He learned to inspect people like livestock, check their teeth, check their hands, check for scars. Scars meant trouble. Scars meant whippings. Whippings meant disobedience. Buyers did not want that. So Benjamin learned to hide scars, put people in better clothes, position them to show their best side, make them smile, make them look happy, make them look like good investments. It was all a show, all a performance, and Benjamin was excellent at it. Other auctioneers hated him. They said he had an unfair advantage. He was mixed race. He could relate to the buyers and the merchandise. He understood both sides. They were right. Benjamin did understand both sides. He understood what buyers wanted. He understood how to make enslaved people seem more valuable than they were. He understood how to maximize profit. And he did not feel bad about it. Why should he? This was his job. This was what the colonel trained him for. This was what made him special. The other enslaved people hated him too. They called him Judas. They called him traitor. They called him race traitor. They spat at him when he walked past. They whispered about him in the slave quarters. They said he was worse than the white masters. At least the white masters were honest about what they were. But Benjamin? Benjamin was one of them. He had black blood. He had a slave mother. But he sold his own people like they were cattle. How could he live with himself? Benjamin told himself they were jealous. Jealous that he had a better life. Jealous that he was not in the fields. Jealous that he had status, money, privilege. He told himself he was smarter than them. He had figured out how to survive, how to thrive. They were stuck. He was free. Not legally free, but free in the ways that mattered. He could come and go. He had money. He had respect from white men. That was more than any field slave could say. He convinced himself of that. He had to. Otherwise, he would have to face what he really was. And he was not ready for that yet. Benjamin kept count. Every person he sold, every auction. He wrote it down in a private ledger, a small leather notebook he kept hidden in his room. Name, age, price, buyer, date. He did not know why he kept the records. The colonel did not ask for them. The buyers did not care. But Benjamin did it anyway. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was pride. He liked seeing the numbers add up. He liked seeing proof of how good he was. By 1854, he had sold 432 people. By 1856, 618. By 1858, 793. The numbers kept climbing. Each one represented a person, a life, a family torn apart, a future destroyed. But Benjamin did not think about that. He thought about the money, the success, the proof that he was better than the others, that he mattered, that he was special, just like the colonel said. In March of 1858, Benjamin sold a woman named Rachel. She was 23 years old. Pretty, light-skinned, skilled at sewing and cooking. She sold for $1,200, the highest price Benjamin had ever gotten for a woman. The buyer was a plantation owner from South Carolina. He was thrilled. He told Benjamin he did excellent work. Benjamin felt proud. He went back to the colonel and reported the sale. The colonel congratulated him, gave him a bonus, $100. Benjamin took the money. He did not ask where Rachel came from. He did not ask if she had family. He did not ask anything. He just took the money and moved on to the next auction. 6 months later, he sold a boy named Thomas, 8 years old, healthy, bright, trainable. Sold for $600 to a tobacco plantation in North Carolina. The buyer wanted a child he could train up from young, mold into exactly the kind of worker he needed. Benjamin sold him the boy without hesitation. Thomas cried when they led him away, reached out toward someone in the crowd. His mother, maybe? Benjamin did not look. He called the next person, a woman named Mary, 12 years old, pretty, could be trained as a house servant, sold for $750. Benjamin kept moving, kept selling, kept counting. By the end of 1858, he had sold 826 people. He was 43 years old. He had been doing this for 13 years. He was the best in Virginia, maybe the best in the South. People knew his name. Masters requested him. Traders paid him extra. He made more money than most free black people ever saw. He lived better than most free black people ever lived. He had privilege, status, respect. He told himself he earned it. He told himself he deserved it. He told himself he was different, better, special. He believed it until April 1858, when he sold number 847, a 17-year-old girl named Sarah. The auction in April of 1848 started like every other auction Benjamin had conducted. 23 people to sell. The location was the Richmond market. The buyers were plantation owners from Virginia and the Carolinas, men Benjamin had worked with before, men who trusted his judgment, men who paid good money for good merchandise. The colonel was there too, watching from the side. He always watched Benjamin's auctions, made sure Benjamin was doing it right, maximizing profit. The first few sales went smoothly. A man sold for $800, a woman for $600, a boy for $450. Standard prices. Nothing unusual. Then they brought out number 17. A girl, 17 years old, light-skinned, tall, pretty, healthy-looking. Benjamin looked at her and felt something strange, something he had not felt in years. Hesitation. He did not know why. She was just another person to sell, just another number in his ledger. But something about her face made him pause. He shook it off, told himself to focus. He called her onto the platform. She walked up slowly, head down, hands shaking. Benjamin told her to stand in the center, turn around, show herself to the buyers. She did it, slowly, reluctantly. Benjamin started his pitch. He said, "This is Sarah, 17 years old, house-trained, can cook, can sew, can read and write." That last part got attention. A literate slave was valuable, rare, dangerous to some buyers, but valuable. The bidding started. $600, $700, $800, $900. The price kept climbing. Benjamin kept talking, kept selling. The final bid came from a man named William Crawford, a plantation owner from Charleston, South Carolina. He offered $1,050. Sold. Benjamin marked it in his ledger. Sarah, 17, $1,050. William Crawford, Charleston, April 8th, 1848. Number 847. Sarah was led off the platform. Benjamin watched her go, felt that strange feeling again. Something was wrong. He did not know what. He pushed it aside, called the next person, finished the auction, collected his commission, went home. That should have been the end of it. It was not. 2 hours after the auction ended, Benjamin was in his room counting money when someone knocked on his door. He opened it. It was Eliza, the colonel's wife, the mistress of the plantation. She was in her 50s, gray hair, thin face, cold eyes. She hated Benjamin, always had. He was a reminder that her husband had children with slave women, children who lived on the same plantation as her, children who looked like him. She never spoke to Benjamin unless she had to. So when she showed up at his door, he knew something was wrong. He asked what she wanted. She did not answer, just pushed past him into the room, closed the door behind her. Benjamin saw she was drunk. She reeked of whiskey. Her eyes were red. Her hands were shaking. She looked at him with something close to hatred. Then she laughed. It was a bitter sound. She said, "Do you know what you just did?" Benjamin said no. Eliza said, "You just sold your daughter." Benjamin felt the room tilt. He said, "What?" Eliza laughed again. She said, "That girl, Sarah, the one you just sold for $1,050, she is your daughter, yours, from a slave woman named Rachel." "Do you remember Rachel?" Benjamin remembered. Rachel had been on the plantation years ago, young, pretty. The colonel had taken an interest in her, used her, then sold her when he was done. That was normal. That was how it worked. But Benjamin had known Rachel too. They had talked sometimes. She had been kind to him. He had been 16. She had been 15. One night the colonel sent Benjamin to bring Rachel to his study. Benjamin did it. He always did what the colonel told him. But after he delivered Rachel, he waited outside, listened, heard what was happening, felt sick. When Rachel came out an hour later, she was crying. Benjamin tried to comfort her. She pushed him away, ran off. A week later, the colonel called Benjamin again, told him to go to Rachel's cabin, told him to bring her to the breeding quarters. The colonel was starting a new program, controlled breeding, specific pairings, maximum genetic value. He wanted Rachel bred with someone intelligent, someone with his blood. He chose Benjamin. Benjamin refused. The colonel did not give him a choice. He said, "You do this or you go to the fields. You do this or you lose everything I gave you. You do this or you are nothing." Benjamin did it. He hated himself, but he did it. Rachel cried the whole time, begged him to stop. He did not stop. He told himself he had no choice. He told himself it was not his fault. He told himself the colonel made him do it. After that night, he avoided Rachel, could not look at her, could not face what he had done. A year later, she was sold, pregnant. The colonel said she was going to a good plantation, said her child would be well cared for. Benjamin did not ask questions, did not want to know. He buried it, forgot it, moved on. But now Eliza was standing in his room telling him he had just sold that child, his daughter. Benjamin said, "How do you know?" Eliza said, "Because I keep records too. Every child born on this plantation, every sale, every transaction. I know everything my husband does, every woman he breeds, every child he sells, every lie he tells. And I know about you, about what you did to Rachel, about the child she had, a girl born in 1831, raised on a plantation in North Carolina, sold 3 times before she ended up here last month. And you just sold her again, to Charleston, without even knowing who she was." Benjamin felt like he could not breathe. He said, "Why are you telling me this?" Eliza leaned closer. She said, "Because I want you to suffer. Because you think you are special. You think you are better than them. But you are not. You are worse. You sell your own people. You destroy your own blood. And now you have sold your own daughter. And I wanted you to know. I wanted you to feel it." She left, slammed the door behind her. Benjamin stood there, unable to move, unable to think. The room was spinning. He sat down, put his head in his hands, tried to process what he had just heard. Sarah, his daughter. He had sold his daughter. He had looked at her, talked to her, inspected her like livestock, sold her for $1,050, and he had not known, had not recognized her, had not felt anything except that strange hesitation, that brief moment of doubt. That was it. That was all the connection he had felt. He thought about Rachel, about that night, about what he had done. He had told himself for years it was not his fault. The colonel made him do it. He had no choice. But that was a lie. He could have refused, could have gone to the fields, could have given up his privilege. But he did not. He chose to obey, chose to hurt Rachel, chose to save himself. And the result was Sarah, a child he never knew, a daughter he never raised, a girl he just sold to a stranger for profit. Benjamin opened his ledger, flipped through the pages, looking for something, anything. He did not know what. Then he saw it. March 1842. Rachel, 23 years old, $1,200, plantation in South Carolina. Benjamin had sold Rachel, too, 6 years ago. He remembered the auction, remembered her face. She had looked at him, recognized him. He saw it in her eyes. She knew who he was, knew what he had done to her, and he sold her anyway. Did not acknowledge her, did not apologize. Just sold her, moved on, forgot. And now her daughter, his daughter, sold again, by him, without knowing, without caring. Benjamin kept flipping through the ledger, looking at names, dates, prices, how many others. How many people had he sold who were connected to him, who shared his blood, who were victims of the colonel's breeding program? He did not know. The colonel had never told him, never explained the system, just used him, used Benjamin's skills, his intelligence, his ability to maximize profit. And Benjamin had done it, willingly, eagerly, proudly. He looked at the page again. Number 847. Sarah, 17, his daughter. He had sold 846 people before her. How many of them were his relatives, his half-siblings, his cousins, his children? How many times had he destroyed his own family without knowing it? The thought was unbearable, suffocating. He could not breathe, could not think. He stood up, paced the room, tried to calm down, failed. He needed to fix this, needed to get Sarah back, needed to stop the sale. He grabbed his coat, ran out of the room, ran to the colonel's study, burst in without knocking. The colonel was sitting at his desk, smoking a cigar, reading a newspaper. He looked up, saw Benjamin, said, "What is wrong?" Benjamin said, "The girl, Sarah, the one I sold today. I need to get her back." The colonel said, "Why?" Benjamin said, "Because she is my daughter." The colonel stared at him, then started laughing. Not a polite laugh, a deep, genuine laugh, like Benjamin had just told the funniest joke he had ever heard. He said, "I know." Benjamin felt his blood go cold. He said, "You knew?" The colonel said, "Of course I knew. I planned it." Benjamin said, "What?" The colonel leaned back in his chair. He said, "Do you think anything happens on this plantation without my knowledge? I knew Rachel was pregnant with your child. I knew where she went. I knew where Sarah was raised. I brought Sarah here last month specifically for you to sell. I wanted to see if you would recognize her, if you would feel anything. You did not. You sold her like you sold everyone else, without hesitation, without conscience. Perfect. Benjamin said, "Why? Why would you do that?" The colonel said, "Because I needed to know if you were ready." Ready for what? Ready for the truth. Sit down. I will explain everything. Benjamin sat. The colonel pulled out a large ledger, much bigger than Benjamin's. He opened it, started flipping through pages. He said, "I have been running a breeding program for 20 years. Controlled pairings, specific genetic combinations. The goal is to create the most valuable slaves possible. Strong, intelligent, obedient, profitable. I have bred over 40 women, created over 60 children, sold most of them, kept a few. You are one of them." Benjamin said, "I know that." The colonel said, "No, you do not. You know I am your father, but you do not know the rest. Your mother, Catherine, was not random. I chose her specifically. Her father was a white overseer. Her mother was a house slave, mixed race, light-skinned, intelligent. I bred her with another mixed slave. Your mother. Then I bred your mother with myself. You are the result of 3 generations of controlled breeding. You are exactly what I designed you to be. Intelligent, obedient, useful, and you have served your purpose perfectly." Benjamin felt sick. He said, "What purpose?" The colonel said, "To sell your own bloodline without knowing it, to prove that my system works, that I can create people so disconnected from their own humanity that they will destroy their own families for profit. You have sold 12 people who share your blood. 12. Rachel was number 1. You sold her 6 years ago. Then you sold Thomas, your son, 8 years old. You sold him to North Carolina. You sold Mary, your daughter, 12 years old, North Carolina. You sold Marcus, your half-brother, Catherine's son by another man. You sold Elizabeth, your cousin. You sold Daniel, your nephew. You sold 6 others, all related to you, all part of my breeding program, and you never knew, never suspected, because you were too busy being proud, too busy believing you were special, too busy thinking you were better than them." The colonel closed the ledger. He looked at Benjamin. He said, "You want to know why I trained you? Why I gave you privilege? It was not because I care about you. It was not because you are my son. It was to create the perfect tool, a slave who sells slaves, a black man who destroys black families, the ultimate symbol of my control. And you did it, willingly, for 13 years. 847 people, 12 of them your own blood, and you never questioned it, never stopped, never cared. That is my achievement. Not the money, not the plantation. You. You are proof that I can break anyone, make them complicit in their own destruction, make them proud of it." Benjamin could not speak, could not move. The colonel stood up. He said, "Now get out. You have work tomorrow. Another auction, 20 people to sell. Do your job." Benjamin left, walked back to his room, sat on his bed, stared at the wall. His mind was blank, empty. The colonel's words echoed. 12 people, his own blood, sold, destroyed, by him. He opened his ledger again, started looking for them, found them. Rachel, Thomas, Mary, Marcus, Elizabeth, Daniel. 6 others whose names he did not recognize but whose bloodline was documented in the colonel's ledger. He had sold them all, inspected them, marketed them, profited from them, destroyed them. And he had been proud. He looked at his hands. These hands had gestured at human beings like they were livestock. These hands had written prices, collected money, counted profit. These hands had touched Sarah 2 hours ago, positioned her, showed her to buyers, sold her, his daughter. He did not know what he was anymore. He had spent 13 years believing he was special, different, better. Now he knew the truth. He was a tool, a weapon. The Colonel had designed him, bred him, trained him, used him, and he had let it happen, welcomed it, embraced it, because it felt good to be special, felt good to have privilege, felt good to believe he was above the others. But he was not above them. He was below them. They worked the fields. They suffered openly. They were victims with dignity. He was a victim who had become a victimizer, a collaborator, a destroyer of his own people. The thing they called him was true. Judas, traitor, race traitor, worse than the masters, because the masters were honest about what they were. He had lied to himself, to everyone, for 13 years. Benjamin did not sleep that night. He sat in his room, staring at the ledger, at the names, at the numbers. 847 people, 12 of them his blood, the rest strangers. But not really strangers. They were all victims of the same system, the system that created him, used him, broke him, made him complicit, and he had no idea how to fix it, or if it could even be fixed. All he knew was that Sarah was gone, on a wagon to Charleston, and he would never see her again. And it was his fault, all of it, his fault. Benjamin went to work the next morning. He had to. The Colonel expected it, demanded it, and Benjamin had spent 13 years obeying. One night of revelation did not change that. Or maybe it did. He did not know any more. He walked to the auction yard like he always did, set up the platform, arranged the chairs for buyers, checked the paperwork. 20 people to sell. The Colonel had delivered them the night before. Benjamin had not looked at them yet. Now he had to. He walked over to the holding area, a fenced section behind the platform. 20 people stood there, chained together, waiting, scared. Benjamin looked at their faces, really looked, for the first time in 13 years. He tried to see them as people, not merchandise, not numbers, not investments, just people. A woman, maybe 30 years old. 2 children clinging to her, a boy about 6, a girl about 8, both terrified. A man, young, strong, looking at the ground. An older man, gray hair, bent back, probably worked fields his whole life. A girl, 16, 17, same age as Sarah. Benjamin felt something crack inside him. He turned away, could not look any more. He went back to the platform, waited for the buyers to arrive. They came. 12 men, plantation owners, traders, regulars. Men Benjamin had worked with for years. They greeted him, shook his hand, told him they were looking forward to good merchandise. Benjamin nodded, said nothing. The auction started. Benjamin called the first person, a man named Jacob, 25 years old, field worker, strong, healthy, no history of trouble. Benjamin started talking. The words came automatically. 13 years of practice, 13 years of the same pitch, same gestures, same tone. The buyers bid. $700, $750, $800, sold. Jacob was led away. Benjamin wrote it in his ledger, then stopped. He looked at the name. Jacob, 25, $800. He looked at Jacob being chained to a wagon. Was he one of them? Was he Benjamin's cousin? His nephew? His half-brother? Benjamin did not know, would never know. He called the next person, a man named Samuel, 32 years old, field worker, good teeth, strong back. The bidding started. Benjamin went through the motions, but he was watching Samuel's face, searching for resemblance, looking for any sign of shared blood. He saw nothing, or maybe he did. He could not tell any more. Samuel sold for $900. Benjamin wrote it down. Called the next person. A woman named Grace, 28 years old, house-trained, could cook, could sew. The buyers looked interested. One asked, "Does she come with children?" Benjamin looked at the paperwork, then looked at Grace. She was staring at him, her eyes pleading, begging. Benjamin opened his mouth to say no. She was being sold alone. That was how you maximized profit. Separate families. Sell each person individually. Get more money that way. But before he could speak, he looked past Grace, saw the woman with 2 children, still chained, still waiting, still terrified. He thought about Rachel, about Sarah, about Mary and Thomas, about how many families he had split, how many mothers he had separated from children, how many children he had sold away from parents. He thought about the 12 people who shared his blood, sold, scattered, destroyed. He looked back at Grace. She was still staring at him. He saw Rachel in her face, saw every woman he had ever sold, every family he had ever destroyed. The buyer asked again, "Does she come with children?" Benjamin said, "No, she is sold alone." Grace's face fell. Tears started. Benjamin called her to the platform. She walked slowly, like she was going to her execution. The bidding started. $600, $650, $700, sold. Grace was led away, crying, reaching back toward someone in the crowd. A child probably, her child. Benjamin had just separated them, just like he had done 866 times before. He wrote her name in the ledger. Grace, 28, $700, number 868. He called the next person, the woman with 2 children. Her name was Clara, 31 years old, field worker, strong, healthy. The 2 children were hers, David, 6 years old, and Emma, 8 years old. One of the buyers spoke up. He said, "I want the woman, just the woman, not the children. They are too young, not useful yet. Sell them separately." Benjamin looked at Clara. She was holding her children tightly, both of them crying. She looked at Benjamin. Her eyes were begging, "Please, do not take my children, please." Benjamin had seen that look before, hundreds of times. He had always ignored it, had always sold families apart, maximized profit. That was his job. That was what he was good at. But now he looked at Clara and saw Rachel, saw every mother he had destroyed, saw his own mother Catherine, saw all the women the colonel had bred, all the children he had separated, all the families he had torn apart, for profit, for the colonel, for his own commission. The buyer said, "Well, I am bidding $800 for the woman alone. Sell the children in the next lot." Another buyer said, "I will take the boy, $500. Another said, "I will take the girl, $550. They were bidding on Clara's children like they were bidding on livestock. Clara was sobbing, holding her children. The children were screaming, "Mama, Mama, do not let them take us." Benjamin stood there, frozen. He had done this. He had caused this scene hundreds of times, had stood on this platform and sold children away from mothers without thinking, without feeling, without caring. But now he could not do it, could not say the words, could not separate them. He thought about the colonel, about what the colonel would do if Benjamin refused to maximize profit. The colonel would be furious, would punish him, maybe sell him. But Benjamin realized something. He was already destroyed. The colonel had already broken him, had already taken everything. There was nothing left to lose. He looked at the buyers. He said, "No, the woman and children are sold together." The buyer who wanted Clara alone said, "What? That is not how this works. You sell them separately. You get more money that way." Benjamin said, "I am selling them together. Take all three or take none." The buyer said, "That is bad business." Benjamin said, "I know." The room went silent. No one spoke. No one had ever seen Benjamin refuse to maximize profit. He was the best auctioneer in Virginia because he was ruthless, efficient, cold. This was not like him. Another buyer said, "I will take all three, $1,200. The other buyers did not bid higher. They were too shocked. Benjamin said, "Sold." Clara and her children were led away together. Clara looked back at Benjamin, tears streaming down her face. But this time they were not tears of despair. They were tears of relief, gratitude. Benjamin did not feel proud, did not feel redeemed. He just felt empty. He had kept one family together, one family out of 868. It felt like nothing. It felt like everything. The auction continued. Benjamin sold the remaining 16 people. He went back to his old methods. Separated families when buyers requested it. Maximized profit. Did his job. By the end, he had sold all 20. Total profit, $14,600. The buyers thanked him, said he did good work despite that one strange moment with the woman and children. They laughed about it, said maybe Benjamin was getting soft in his old age. Benjamin said nothing. He took his commission, $200, went back to his room, opened his ledger. 887 people now. He flipped to the page where he wrote Clara, 31 years old, sold with children David and Emma, $1,200. He stared at that line. One family kept together. In 13 years. One. It changed nothing. Did not undo the 866 families he had destroyed. Did not bring back Rachel or Sarah or Thomas or Mary. Did not erase his guilt. But it was something. The first time he had chosen differently. The first time he had defied the system, even in a small way, even for one family. He closed his ledger. He could not keep doing this, could not go to another auction, could not call another name, could not sell another person, not after knowing, not after understanding. He needed to do something bigger, something that mattered, something that would stop this, stop the Colonel, stop the system. The idea came back, the same one from the night before. The Colonel's ledger, the breeding records, the proof. If Benjamin could get it, if he could expose it, maybe it would matter. Maybe it would help. Maybe it would be worth something. He decided. Tonight, he would steal it. Benjamin did not sleep. He sat in his room, waiting, planning. By midnight, the plantation was silent. He left his room, walked quietly to the main house, unlocked the back door with keys the Colonel had given him years ago, stepped inside. The house was dark, silent. He walked through the hall, past the parlor, past the dining room, to the study. The door was locked. He opened it with his key, stepped inside, closed the door behind him, lit a candle. The room looked the same as always. Desk, chairs, bookshelves, expensive furniture, symbols of wealth built on suffering. Benjamin went to the desk, tried the drawer. Locked. He did not have a key for this. He found a letter opener, used it to pry the lock. It broke. The drawer opened. Inside was the ledger, bigger than Benjamin's, leather-bound, filled with pages. He pulled it out, opened it. The first page was dated 1828. The Colonel's handwriting was neat, precise, clinical, like a scientific experiment, which it was. The Colonel listed women by name, age, physical characteristics, health, intelligence, bloodline, then breeding pairs, who he matched with whom, why, what traits he wanted, what results he expected. Benjamin flipped through pages, saw his mother's name, Catherine, listed with genetic details, mixed race, intelligent, healthy, bred with Colonel William Thornton. Result, Benjamin, born 1835. Purpose, create intelligent, obedient tool for auction work. Assessment, successful. Benjamin stared at those words. Tool, successful. That was all he was. He kept reading, saw Rachel, age 15, bred with Benjamin, age 16. Result, Sarah, born 1831. Purpose, test subject ability to emotionally detach. Test if subject would sell own offspring without recognition. Assessment. Sarah sold April 1848 by subject for $1,050. Test successful. Subject showed no recognition, no hesitation, no emotional response. Conclusion. Subject fully detached from humanity. Tool complete. Benjamin felt like he could not breathe. Test successful. Tool complete. His daughter, his own daughter, was a test, an experiment, to see if the Colonel had broken him completely. And he had. Benjamin had sold Sarah without knowing, without feeling, without questioning. He had passed the Colonel's test, proved he was completely destroyed, completely controlled, completely the Colonel's tool. He kept flipping pages, page after page, 40 women, 60 children, every detail documented, every breeding recorded, every sale tracked, every family destroyed, all in neat handwriting, all organized, all methodical, all legal. He saw Thomas, born 1836, Benjamin's son, sold October 1844 for $600. Mary, born 1833, Benjamin's daughter, sold June 1845 for $750. Marcus, born 1814, Benjamin's half-brother, sold April 1846 for $900. 12 people total, all Benjamin's blood, all sold by Benjamin, all documented in the Colonel's ledger, with notes, observations, assessments of Benjamin's performance, how well he sold his own family without knowing, how efficiently he destroyed his own bloodline, how completely he had been broken. Benjamin closed the ledger. He could not read any more, could not look at more proof of what he had become, what the Colonel had made him. He put the ledger inside his shirt, left the drawer open, left the study, walked back through the house, out the back door, back to his room, locked the door, sat on his bed, pulled out the ledger. He had it. 20 years of evidence, proof of the Colonel's crimes, proof of the system's brutality, proof of how slavery destroyed people, not just physically, psychologically, emotionally, systematically. Now he needed to get it north, to people who would use it, to people who would publish it, to people who would care. The next morning, Benjamin did not go to the auction yard. He went into town. Richmond, to the Free Black District. He found a man named Isaiah, 50 years old, a freedman who worked as a messenger, who helped the Underground Railroad. Everyone knew it, but could not prove it. Benjamin approached him. Isaiah saw him. His face hardened. He said, "What do you want?" Benjamin said, "I need your help." Isaiah laughed, a bitter sound. He said, "You need my help? You? The slave seller? The Judas? You need help from me?" Benjamin said, "Yes, I have something important." Isaiah said, "I do not work for slave sellers. I do not help people who destroy their own." Benjamin pulled out the ledger, showed it to Isaiah. He said, "This is Colonel Thornton's breeding ledger. 20 years of records, 40 women, 60 children, every breeding, every sale, every manipulation, every crime. It is all here. Proof of how the system works. Isaiah took the ledger, opened it, started reading. His face changed. Shock, anger, disgust. He looked at Benjamin. He said, "Where did you get this?" Benjamin said, "I stole it. Last night, from the colonel's desk." Isaiah said, "He will kill you for this." Benjamin said, "I know." Isaiah said, "Why are you doing this?" Benjamin said, "Because I am in that ledger. My mother, my children, my siblings, my own daughter. 12 people I sold were my blood. I did not know. The colonel engineered it, made me complicit. I cannot undo it, but I can stop him. I can expose him. This ledger is proof. Use it." Isaiah closed the ledger, looked at Benjamin for a long time. He said, "You really sold your own children?" Benjamin said, "Yes. My daughter Sarah, 17 years old, 2 weeks ago. I did not know until after." Isaiah said nothing. Then he said, "This will not fix what you did. This will not bring back those 887 people you sold. This will not erase your guilt. You understand that?" Benjamin said, "Yes." Isaiah said, "Then why do it?" Benjamin said, "Because it is all I can do. It is the only thing I have left." Isaiah nodded. He said, "I will take it. I know people in Philadelphia, abolitionists. They publish newspapers, pamphlets. They will use this. They will expose the colonel, expose the system. But you need to understand, this will destroy you too. Your name is in this ledger. People will know what you did, what you were. You will be hated by everyone, black and white, north and south. Are you ready for that?" Benjamin said, "I am already hated. I am already destroyed. This is just making it official." Isaiah put the ledger in his bag. He said, "I leave tonight. By next week this will be in Philadelphia. By next month it will be published. The colonel will lose everything, and so will you." Benjamin said, "Good." Isaiah left. Benjamin stood there, empty-handed. He had given away the only evidence, the only proof. Now it was done, out of his hands, in someone else's control. He went back to the plantation, went to his room, waited. He knew what would happen next. The colonel would discover the ledger missing, would know Benjamin took it, would come for him. And Benjamin was ready. He sat on his bed, looked at his own ledger. 887 people, 13 years of work, hundreds of thousands of dollars, countless destroyed lives. One family kept together, Clara and David and Emma. It was not enough, would never be enough, but it was something. He closed his ledger for the last time, put it on the desk, and waited for the colonel. If you are still watching this, if you have followed Benjamin's story this far, drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me if keeping Clara's family together mattered. Tell me if stealing the ledger was enough. I want to know what you are feeling right now. The colonel came for Benjamin 3 days later, not immediately, not in rage. 3 days. 3 days of silence. 3 days of waiting. Benjamin knew what the colonel was doing, letting him sit, letting him think about what he had done, letting the fear build. It worked. Benjamin barely slept, barely ate. He sat in his room, stared at the walls, waited for the door to open, waited for the punishment. On the 3rd day, it came. 2 overseers arrived at dawn. They did not knock, just opened the door, walked in. One said, "The colonel wants to see you." Benjamin stood, followed them. They walked him to the main house, to the study. The colonel was sitting behind his desk. Same place as always, same chair, same calm expression, like nothing had happened, like Benjamin had not stolen his most valuable possession. The overseers left, closed the door. Benjamin and the colonel were alone. The colonel looked at Benjamin for a long time. did not speak, just looked. Finally, he said, "You stole from me." Benjamin said, "Yes." The colonel said, "You gave my ledger to abolitionists." Benjamin said, "Yes." The colonel said, "Do you know what that ledger was worth?" Benjamin said, "Nothing." It was worth nothing. It was just proof of crimes. The colonel smiled, a cold smile. He said, "No, it was worth everything. It was my life's work. 20 years of records, 20 years of planning, 20 years of perfection. And you gave it away to people who will use it against me, against the South, against the entire system. You destroyed me." Benjamin said, "Good." The colonel's smile disappeared. He stood up, walked around the desk, stood in front of Benjamin. He said, "I made you. I gave you everything. I pulled you out of the fields, gave you education, gave you privilege, gave you status. I made you better than them. And this is how you repay me? By destroying everything I built?" Benjamin said, "You did not make me better. You made me a monster. You made me sell my own children, my own blood. You used me as a tool, as a weapon. You broke me, and then you were proud of it." The colonel said, "Yes, I was. You were my greatest achievement, the perfect slave, smart enough to be useful, broken enough to be obedient, disconnected enough to destroy your own people without hesitation. You proved my theory, that anyone can be controlled, that anyone can be made complicit, that privilege is a chain stronger than iron, and you wore it willingly for 13 years. Benjamin said nothing. The colonel was right. He had worn it willingly, had been proud of it, had believed he was special, better, different. The colonel continued. He said, "But you broke. Finally. After 887 people, after 13 years, you finally broke. I am almost impressed. I thought you would last longer. I thought you would sell 1,000 before you questioned anything. But that girl, Sarah, your daughter, that broke you. Good. That was the point, the final test. And you failed it, or passed it, depending on perspective." Benjamin looked at the colonel. He said, "What are you going to do to me?" The colonel said, "What do you think? You stole from me. You betrayed me. You destroyed my reputation, my business, my legacy." "What should I do?" Benjamin said. "Kill me." The colonel laughed. He said, "Kill you? No, that would be too easy, too quick. You do not deserve that mercy. I am going to do something worse. I am going to let you live." Benjamin felt cold. He said, "What does that mean?" The colonel said, "It means I am selling you. Tomorrow, to a plantation in Mississippi, deep south, cotton fields, brutal conditions, hard labor, the kind of work you avoided your whole life because you thought you were too good for it. You will spend the rest of your life there, breaking your back, dying slowly, knowing that you accomplished nothing. The ledger will be published. Yes, people will know what I did, but they will also know what you did. Your name is in that ledger. Benjamin, the slave auctioneer who sold 887 people, including his own children. You think abolitionists will celebrate you? You think anyone will remember you as a hero? No, they will remember you as a collaborator, a traitor, worse than me, because I was honest about what I was. You pretended to be one of them while destroying them. You will die hated by everyone, black and white, north and south, enslaved and free. That is your punishment, not death. Infamy." Benjamin stood there. The colonel was right. Again, the ledger would expose Benjamin too. His name, his crimes, his complicity. No one would see him as a victim who fought back. They would see him as a tool who broke too late, after too much damage, after too many lives destroyed. The colonel sat back down. He said, "The auction is tomorrow, 10 in the morning. Richmond Market. You will be sold like everyone you ever sold. Inspected, evaluated, bid on, purchased, led away in chains. I will make sure the buyers know what you are, what you did. I will make sure they know you are a race trader, a Judas, a man who sold his own daughter. They will pay less for you because of it, but someone will buy you, and you will spend the rest of your miserable life in fields, where you belong, where you always belonged. Benjamin said, I know. The colonel looked surprised. He said, You know? You accept this? Benjamin said, Yes, I deserve it. I deserve worse than this. The colonel stared at him, then said, Get out. Go back to your room. Tomorrow you will be someone else's problem. Benjamin left, walked back to his quarters, sat on his bed, opened his ledger one last time. 887 people, 13 years, 12 of them his blood. One family kept together, Clara, David, Emma. That was all he had. One small act of defiance. One family. Out of 887. It was not enough. Would never be enough. But it was something. He thought about tomorrow. Thought about being sold. Standing on the platform. The same platform where he had stood hundreds of times. But this time as merchandise. Not auctioneer. He thought about how it would feel. To be inspected. To be evaluated. To be bid on. To be purchased. To be led away in chains. He had done that to 887 people. Now it would be done to him. There was justice in that. Cruel justice. But justice. He closed his ledger, left it on the desk. Someone would find it eventually. Maybe they would read it. Maybe they would understand. Maybe they would see the names, the prices, the families destroyed. Maybe it would matter. Probably not. But maybe. The auction the next morning was exactly as the colonel promised. Benjamin was brought to the Richmond market in chains, the same market where he had worked for 13 years, the same platform, the same buyers, but different. Everything was different. The auctioneer was a man named William, younger than Benjamin, efficient, cold, just like Benjamin used to be. William called Benjamin onto the platform, told him to stand in the center, turn around, show himself. Benjamin did it. The buyers looked at him, evaluated him. One asked about his age, 43. One asked about his health, good, strong. One asked about his skills. William said he was an auctioneer, worked this market for 13 years, sold hundreds of people. Then he stole from his master, betrayed him. Cannot be trusted, the buyers murmured. Looked at Benjamin with disgust. A black man who sold black people, then betrayed his white master. Worst of both worlds. The bidding started low, $300, $350, $400. Lower than Benjamin had ever seen for a healthy man his age. The buyers did not want him, did not trust him, saw him as contaminated, ruined. Finally, a man bid $500, a plantation owner from Mississippi. Older man, hard face. He said, I will take him. I need field workers. I do not care what he did. He can work. That is all that matters. Sold. Benjamin was led off the platform, chained to a wagon. 10 other people were already there, all being transported south, to Mississippi, to cotton fields, to brutal labor. Benjamin looked at them, really looked. For the first time, he was one of them, not above them, not separate. One of them? A woman next to him whispered, What did you do? Benjamin said, I sold people. For 13 years. She stared at him, then turned away, said nothing. The other enslaved people heard. They looked at him with hatred, with disgust. One man spat at him, said, Judas. Benjamin said nothing. They were right. The wagon started moving. south, away from Richmond, away from Virginia, toward Mississippi, toward fields, toward the life Benjamin had avoided for 43 years. He looked back at the city, at the market, at the platform where he had stood so many times, where he had sold 887 people, where he had just been sold. Number 888. He faced forward, toward his future, toward punishment, toward justice. The plantation in Mississippi was called Thornwood, owned by the man who bought him, Robert Aldrich. 1,500 acres, cotton, 300 enslaved people, brutal conditions, high mortality rate. Aldrich was known for working people to death, replacing them, working the new ones to death. A cycle. Benjamin was assigned to the fields. No special treatment, no recognition of his intelligence, no privilege, just work. Dawn to dusk, cotton, picking, hauling, processing. His hands bled, his back ached, his body broke down. He was not built for this, had spent his whole life avoiding this. Now it was all he had. The other enslaved people avoided him. Word spread about what he was, what he had done, a slave auctioneer, a man who sold his own people. They did not talk to him, did not help him, did not acknowledge him. He was alone, isolated, hated. One night an older man approached him. The man said, "I heard about you, about what you did." Benjamin said, "Everyone has." The man said, "Why did you do it? Why did you sell your own people?" Benjamin said, "Because I thought I was better than them, because I thought I was special, because the colonel made me believe I was different." The man said, "And now?" Benjamin said, "Now I know the truth. I was never special, never different, just broken." The man looked at him, then said, "The ledger, the one you stole, it was published last month in Philadelphia, in Boston, in New York. Abolitionists are using it. Newspapers are printing excerpts. People are reading about the colonel's breeding program, about the systematic destruction of families, about you. You are famous or infamous, depending on who you ask." Benjamin said, "I know." The man said, "Was it worth it?" Benjamin said, "I do not know. I destroyed my life. I will die here, hated, alone, but the ledger is out there. The truth is out there. Maybe it will help end this. Maybe it will make people see what slavery really is. Not just physical chains, psychological chains, systems designed to break people, to make them complicit, to destroy them from the inside. Maybe that matters." The man said, "Maybe." Then he left. Benjamin never spoke to him again. 3 years passed. Benjamin worked the fields, every day, every season, cotton. His body broke down, his hands became gnarled, his back bent. He aged rapidly. By 1851, he looked 60. He was 46. One day, a new overseer arrived, younger man, from Virginia. He recognized Benjamin. He said, "I know you. You are the auctioneer, the one who stole the ledger, the one who betrayed the colonel." Benjamin said, "Yes." The overseer said, "The colonel is dead, died 6 months ago." Hart stopped. He lost everything after the ledger was published, his reputation, his business. Other plantation owners shunned him, said he made them all look bad. He died alone, disgraced. I thought you would want to know. Benjamin felt nothing, no satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. The colonel was dead, but the system was not. Slavery was not. The ledger changed some minds, convinced some people, but not enough, not nearly enough. The overseer left. Benjamin went back to work. That night he sat alone, thought about everything, thought about his mother Catherine, about Rachel, about Sarah, about Thomas and Mary, about all 12 people he sold who shared his blood, about the 875 others, about Clara and David and Emma, the one family he saved, about the colonel. dead now, disgraced, about himself, alive but destroyed. He thought about the ledger, about Isaiah taking it north, about abolitionists publishing it, about people reading it, learning the truth. Would it end slavery? No, but maybe it would help. Maybe it would be one more piece of evidence, one more story, one more voice saying the system is wrong. This system is evil. This system destroys everyone it touches, masters and enslaved, victims and victimizers, everyone. Benjamin did not live to see emancipation. He died in 1853, age 48, in a cotton field in Mississippi, worked to death, alone, hated. But his ledger survived. His confession survived. The names of 887 people survived. And maybe that mattered. Maybe someone read those names and thought about them as people. Not numbers, not merchandise. People, with families, with lives, with futures stolen. Maybe that changed one mind. Maybe one mind changed another. Maybe it helped. Benjamin would never know. He died believing he had failed, that his confession was too little, too late, after too much damage. Maybe he was right, or maybe he was wrong. History would decide, not him. Years after Benjamin died, a historian found his personal ledger in an archive, the one Benjamin kept, 887 names, with one notation different from the others. Clara, 31 years old, sold with children David and Emma, $1,200. Next to it, Benjamin had written something, 3 words, the only editorial comment in the entire ledger. He wrote, "Kept them together." That was all. No explanation, no justification, just those 3 words. The historian published the ledger alongside the Colonel's. Both documents, side by side, Benjamin's names and prices, the Colonel's breeding records. Together they told the full story. The system, the manipulation, the destruction, the complicity, the guilt, the attempt at redemption. Too late, always too late, but attempted. People read both ledgers. Some called Benjamin a monster. Some called him a victim. Some called him a collaborator. Some called him a man who tried to make things right. All of them were correct. He was all of those things. Monster and victim, collaborator and resistor, tool and human, broken and trying. That was the truth. Complicated, painful, unforgivable, understandable, wrong and human. Both, always both. The ledgers are still in archives today, in Philadelphia, in Washington, in museums. People still read them, still debate them, still argue about Benjamin, about what he was, what he did, whether his confession mattered, whether stealing the ledger redeemed him, whether keeping one family together meant anything after destroying 886 others. There are no easy answers. There never are. Just names. 887 of them. And 3 words. Kept them together. That is Benjamin's legacy. Not redemption, not damnation, just truth. Complicated, painful, human. Truth.